And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with, ladies and gentlemen, we have it, the Waffle wrap up, the opener. Yes, we have the season preview of WAFL footy and WAFLW footy to talk about. And joining me, the man, the myth, the legend that is one of the voices of Waffle footy for me, and the host of WAFL footy. Cannot wait. Mr. Paul Persick. Paul, great to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Johnny. I'm not sure about legend, but I really appreciate the intro. Now, it's great to be here in season 2025. It's going to be a great year. And Waffle Footy, man, it can't get any better than this. We're getting closer to the season. Oh, it can't come quickly enough.
Yes, yes. The weeks cannot go fast enough. I'm literally sitting here at the fixture. The women's start in just less than 2 weeks. The men just a couple of weeks after that. Cannot wait. But before we jump into the footy, I must give a shout out to our one missing former co-host, Mr. Rick Gauchi. Unfortunately, due to some things, he will not be joining us this year on the Waffle Wrap-Up shows. Again, Rick, we will miss you. You do a fantastic job with Waffle Footy Facts. I will continue to use that awesome website. Just wanted to thank him again. We'll miss him this year again, so he will not unfortunately be on any of the podcasts this year, but we hope, crossing his fingers, he'll be back next year to join us back on the podcast again for sure. But just wanted to give Rick that shout out before we got started. So let's jump right into it, sir. The women's season is only 2 weeks away from when we are recording, and some interesting new storylines to hop in. So let's jump right into it. I'm looking forward to this. What is the one thing you're looking forward to this year in Waffle Footy play?
Well, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how the Perth side do in their first season. You know, now we've got a complete WAFLW picture. It's a new era, new look competition, 18 rounds as Perth are joining for the first time in 2025. They've got obviously a very good coaching staff that is going to be behind this playing group. Jessica Centenary is going to be their head coach, and they've got a really good coaching staff to make sure that this team really gels well. It's going to be all about finding your feet and what their identity is as a side, what their brand of football is as a side. They've got Caitlin Bassett in there, who's going to bring a great sense of professionalism to the Perth Demons side, and they've got some great players in the Rogers Cup and all around the Perth zone, the Gosnells area, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they gel as a side in 2025, and also the continuation of this great rivalry between Claremont and East Fremantle. The last three grand
Mhm.
finalists have been between the Tigers and the Sharks. Will it be four in a row, or will we see someone come in as a bolter? It's so intriguing the lead up to the WAFLW season because it's a great competition, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how those three teams in particular go, especially Perth in their first season in a newer competition.
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder. Those were the two biggest things that I remember that I going into this year. I was like, I'm excited for the Perth Demons to get their first season as full-fledged Waffle W member. I know that they've been playing Rogers Cup and had some success, so I'm excited for that. And I guess it's the talk every year. East Fremantle, Claremont. Who's going to be the better team? The last few years, it's been who's the best team in the home and away, and then who's the team that wins it at the end of the grand final. So it's been fascinating to. So the storyline to back up between that is, will we see that same dominance between those two teams, or as you said, will somebody step up and put their hat into the ring? I'm excited for that. Cannot wait. So we'll get the negative out of the way. Who's the biggest faller? Who's a team that you could see descending down the ladder this year on the women's side?
I think it's very tough to pick a big slider because the competition is incredibly close. But there's obviously been that gap between the top four teams: Claremont, East Fremantle, West Perth, Swan districts. But out of those four, I don't. I honestly can't tell. I honestly cannot tell who's going to be the biggest slider because both Claremont, West Perth, Swan districts, and East Fremantle have incredible depth, and they've been the four sides of Waffle W that have really created history. So I can't see anyone sliding big. If I was to have someone missing the four, it might be East Fremantle. It's a gut feeling.
Mhm.
It's always tough to rebound after a grand final, but East Fremantle have done it once before. I don't know if they can do it again.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go the same way. I thought East Fremantle because their talisman of Zippy Fish is now out of there, and some of that solid talent that they've had for the last couple of years that have really kind of kept them in that shall we say, dogfight with Claremont the last couple of years. Now, can they replace it? Can they step in and have some of the youngsters
Yeah.
step in and replace that talent? So if the one team I worry that is a riser, I'm not going to say that they will, but the team that I could see potentially being a faller would be East Fremantle because of some of the losses that they've taken on on that particular side that has been so good for the last 2 or 3 years. So let's go to the opposite. Biggest riser. Is there a team that missed the finals this year that could be knocking on the door to join that top four?
I'm going to twist that question a little bit, if I may, Johnny. And a team
Nah.
that made the finals last year is going to, rise up even more, and that's West Perth. I mean, what a season they had last season, guiding themselves to the preliminary final. They got a great staff, great depth. The talent in their midfield is simply sensational, and they just announced their co-captains on the week of this recording, Gemma Bailey and Emily Bennett. They'll be leading the side in 2025. They have got great strength in their midfield, and those two form a big core of that. Their strength and their ability to carry the ball from midfield into attack is one of the big reasons West Perth made four in 2024. And I reckon with them as co-captains, their leadership skills and their ability to really get their side going under pressure, I reckon is what's going to make the difference to West Perth. So I actually see them finishing on top of the ladder this season and making the grand final. I've got a good feeling about this West Perth side. They've got like Perth, a great staff with the coaching, and they've lost a couple of players due to injury. Kat Bennett had an injury during the this pre-season, may miss a few weeks of football, but once she gets going, she is hard to stop. She was one of my favourite players to watch at the West Perth side in 2025, and so with the depth that they've got and the commitment they have to the cause, West Perth will be huge improvements in 2025. They'll improve from what they achieved last season.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see if they break the Fremantle Claremont little stranglehold in the grand final. Another team I'm interested to see because they fell just short last year and have always been a good team is Subiaco. I'm interested to see can Subi bounce up? Will they push? Because I think Swan District's primarily, I think they're going to mostly have most of their squad back. Again, a team that really good offensively, sometimes a little iffy defensively, and I think that sometimes burn them against some of the better teams. I agree with you. I think West Perth is that team that if East Fremantle takes any step back, they are going to pounce and pounce quickly. And I think it's going to be fun to watch that one. Claremont is Claremont in the women's competition. It's just hard to argue that they're not going to be there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm keeping an eye on Subi, and then like I agree with you, West Perth could be that stunner to take away the top two teams. One of those top spots would be fascinating. So I love one little fun one. I like doing this, and I think you're really good at this too. Do you have a bold call for this particular season?
Yes, I do. Dara Kerr Medal is obviously the WAFL W's Best and Fairest award at the end of each season.
Hmm.
We will have a three-way tie for Dara
Oh,
Kerr Medal. Three-way tie.
okay. Do you have names, or you just gonna leave it like
That's
that?
right.
I love it. So I'm
I'm just going to
hoping
leave it as it is and
that
leave it
is
out in the open.
that is fine. That is perfectly fine. I'm gonna go bold call it, and it's more of maybe something I want to have happen. I want Perth Demons to get at least one win this season. Like I said, I don't know if it's a bold call, but I want to get at least one win. I know when East Perth came in, took until the second season before they got their first win. So for me, I don't know if it would say it was a bold call, but I hope Perth gets their first win of the season so the girls can sing the song, the club can get around it, and then maybe they build from there. So again, like I said, not sure if it's a bold call, but that's what I'm hoping happens. So let's have some fun. You've already kind of go ahead. You look
Yeah,
like
I
you had
reckon
a
they'll get more than one win. They'll get more than one win. I think they'll get more than one win. I think the sense of professionalism that recruits are going to bring, the coaching staff have got a great vision. So, one win would be great, but I'd up the ante and say I'd say more than one win. I
okay.
reckon they've got what it takes.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'll be absolutely over the moon if they do for sure. Absolutely. So, all right. We'll grab our crystal balls. We'll have some fun. What are the four teams that are making the finals this year for the women's side?
I think it'll be the same teams, but it'll be in different order. So it'll be Claremont, East Fremantle, West Perth, and Swan districts, but the order will be different. West Perth will finish on top, and then it'll be Claremont that'll finish in second. Swan District, then East Fremantle. I said earlier East Fremantle may miss the four, but I didn't say they will.
Hmm. No, I'm kind of the same way. I think East Fremantle still has some good talent around there. They still got some of the experience that's won a premiership before. I agree with you. So I was going to say the same thing. Swans, West Perth, Claremont, and East Fremantle will be the four. I'm not going to pick the order because there's too many variables, but that for me, those would be the four for me. So then we'll have some fun. Who plays out? Who are the two that will play off in the grand final?
It'll be Claremont and West Perth.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, I'm going to say the same thing. I think West Perth, Claremont, I think East Fremantle just lost a little too much. Be fascinating. And then we got to ask who's holding the flag at the end of the year? West Perth Falcons, Claremont Tigers.
It'll be the grand old flag. I'm saying West Perth.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, I think I'm gonna go Claremont just because they're just so consistent. But I'm with you. It would be fantastic to see the Falcons raise a flag. We'll have to see. I'll stay a little consistent on this, and I think I'll go Claremont on that one. But again, if it's those two in the grand final, I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic grand final. That is the men's season went through. And that led the women's season. Now let's jump to the men's, which is even more interesting. Like I said, we jump from 9 teams to 10 teams. Let's have some fun on this one. What are you looking forward to most in the men's season?
I'm really excited to see how close this season is. If you think about 2023 and 2024, those seasons were very close. I mean, the final five wasn't decided until the last game of round 20. It's going to be a very exciting competition. Teams have recruited well. Perth and South Fremantle in particular. Could they rise up after missing the five? West Perth, are they going to continue to struggle, or will we see them bolt from the blue? East Fremantle, they've returned to Shark Park. Will that bring a renewed sense of enthusiasm to the now former premiers who want that title back? Can East Perth rebound from their grand final devastation? Pure Thunder, do they have what it takes to go back to back, given that they've extended the Fremantle alignment? And will a new state team coach finally lead the team, the WA state team, to beat
Mhm.
South Australia for the first time in 6 years? Because at the time of this recording, days before, Adam Reid was instilled as a new state coach. So how will he go in the state team? Subiaco, in a transition period, they've lost a lot of experience. They're bringing in youth. Can Bo Wardman guide them back to the prominence? And will Perth, rise up? And will West Coast, finally be able to get more wins on the board after showing slight improvements in 2024? So there's a lot of intrigue about the men's season, and the closeness of the competition is what I'm looking forward to the most. The crowds were great, by the way, as well. I mean, they were a big reason of why the competition is so good. The fans, they turned out in droves, and all I can say is April 5 can't come quick enough.
Yeah, I was for me it's I just what I look forward to, and it's more of a hope, and that is another cracking season where you have no idea who's going to win each week because it's that competitive. There's parity, as some say in the league. You hate seeing that team that just runs away with it. So for me, what I'm looking forward to is hoping that the parity is back again this year. How does Perth bounce back? Hopefully they can keep some of their stars that they signed healthy to where they don't have the kind of lull in the middle of the season. I agree with you. Can Peel go back to back? It'll be fascinating. How do the Sharks bounce back from falling apart in the grand final? So many things. Can West Coast AFL team stay healthy so their WAFL team doesn't go into an embarrassment of problems like they have in seasons before? So many different fun storylines. Cannot wait. And then, as you kind of said, is some prime time footy games, some evening footy games. Crossing my fingers, cannot wait because I thought those were fantastic last year. And as I
Oh,
said, at the
that
end
was
of the year,
brilliant.
you have to continue them because I think it only made the waffle product even better. So for me, it's looking forward to the competitiveness of this competition because if last year was any indication, this year could be an absolute cracker. So cannot wait. So we'll get our negative out of the way. Is there a faller? Is there a team this year that you could see descending down the ladder a little bit?
I have to say, is from Fremantle, even though their return to Shark Park is going to bring a lot of renewed enthusiasm, as I said earlier. But the loss of experience will hurt. They've lost a wealth of experience during the off season. Matty Jupp, the Premiership captain of 2023, Blaine Boakhurst, Sandover medalist from a couple of years ago, and Josh Schoenfeld, and also Luke English, who's playing in the amateur competition for the Perth Football League. So they've lost a wealth of experience. Having said that, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong because they're going to bring in some good young blood. Jack Cocking in the forward line, who played a little bit in the reserves grand final last season and played in the winning premiership side in the reserves. I reckon he's going to add a lot of depth to that forward line. Down back, I reckon that's going to be tested. But players from the likes of Finn Gorringe, I reckon, will carry that role. Just how many tools are going to be in that East Fremantle back line? That's going to be a question of mine. But it's just a feeling in my gut that they'll miss the five. But it won't be a spectacular fall. It'll just be a little bit of plateau. And then once they get some more good tall players in that side, you've got the likes of Gorringe, Jonathan Marsh and company. But once they get some more tall players, they'll be back in the finals in 2026. But this year, I reckon they'll miss the five.
Yeah, it's interesting that you always hear the announcers that if you have a horrible grand final, then there's there are mental scars and everything like that. So sometimes if you have enough turnover, and sometimes it's not always there. So it'll be fascinating. I think I'm with you. I think East Fremantle, unfortunately, I it'll be interesting. Like there's no real obvious one because I don't think any team took a massive hit, and I don't think any team made massive strides forward. So it'll be fascinating, like I said, to see how things go. Be interesting. Biggest riser is the team. Is there a team that you think will rise up the ladder that we should know about?
East Fremantle fans are going to hate this, but I'm going to say South Fremantle. South Fremantle are going to be the biggest risers for me. They have recruited very well during the off season. They've got some great players from other WAFL clubs. They've brought back Hamish Free from North Melbourne, and they've got some great young up and comers from the Colts and the reserves. I'm looking forward to seeing how Solomon James goes. He's a big lumbering ruckman. I mean, he played some great league games, collected games last season. He got those hit outs. He was able to set up the centre clearances, and I reckon he's going to go well. But also, there's a little bit of motivation, hidden motivation by South Fremantle. Not just they're recruiting off the field. The appointment of Craig White as new coach to take the place of Todd Curley, who served 11 years. Craig White, a former premiership player in the 2000s. But two players are going to be sorely missed by South Fremantle this season for various reasons. Josh Branchy, who had a workplace accident just before Christmas and might miss a bit of a chunk of football this season for South Fremantle, but also Hayden Schleut, who is a stalwart of the South Fremantle Football Club, multiple premiership player, multi-time best and fairest, Sandover medalist. He recently had a health scare and had to get a malignant tumour removed after finding a cancerous lump. So he's going through, the toughest battle anyone can face. But South Fremantle, they are, a team that's going to be motivated to do it for them, especially Scoots, without, being disrespectful to Josh Branchy, who's a great star, but I reckon he's going to come back before you know it. But Schleute, he's fighting a battle as tougher than any workplace accident that you could ever have, because this is a battle of life that Hayden Schleut is dealing with, and we wish him all the very best in his recovery. And I want to send a shout out to South Fremantle because they, at the time of this recording recently, they did this wonderful gesture, to show that the club and the football community is right behind Schleut. That every player in the men's competition, they shave their heads to replicate Hayden Schleut's hairstyle, the buzz cut. So they shave their heads in an act of great will, not goodwill, great will to get behind Schleut. So I reckon there's that little hidden motivation that they want to do it for Scooter in 2025. So I reckon they'll rise up the ladder and even they'll finish in the top three.
Well, that'll be fantastic. That'll be one of those great stories if that were to happen. For me, maybe it's a little bit of I've kind of earned a soft spot for them, and that's Perth Demons. I hope they rise up the ladder. Well, they make finals. I'm not going to sit here and jump that particular hoop yet, but I've kind of gotten to love this little pesky side. They just need a little bit of luck. And if they can get some luck health wise, maybe they shift up this season. Like I said, probably don't make finals, but I see them jumping up the ladder a little bit and putting a few teams in the rear view mirror more than looking up on the ladder for me. So I love you. I know you always love this. What's your bold call for the men's season this year?
It's even tougher. It is even tougher. But I reckon out of the top five teams that made the five last year, only three of them will make it this year. Only three of them will make it this year, and it will be Peel Thunder, East Perth, Swan Districts. Those are the teams that made the five last year that will finish in the five this year. Peel, East Perth, Swan District. So I reckon we'll see a bit of the finals monopoly break.
Interesting, interesting. I see here's where a little bit of I wish I had just a little bit more information when it comes to it for my bold call because I don't know. Like I think I'm gonna pass on this one because it's just a little I'm a little behind when it comes to it. I kind of really didn't have anything solid because I don't know, it was a bold call. Like part of me wanted to have some fun and do a bold call to make Rick smile and go Swan Districts finishes in the top two this year. What the heck? You know what? We'll do it. Rick, I'm gonna do one for you since you're no longer since you're not on the podcast this particular year. I'll have a fun bowl call. Swan Districts finished top two just for shits and giggles. Let's have some fun with it.
That's not a
So,
bad one. That isn't a bad one. I don't necessarily think it'll be a bold call because if you look at their season last year, they were incredible. They finished in third. They've lost a heap of players, yes, but they are going to, get some good recruits into that Swan District side, and I reckon they'll build the crowd. It still will be right behind them, and they'll be in for another great season.
well, we'll cross my fingers. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'll get a little bit lucky on that one. So as you kind of broke it down a little bit. Your top five, the final five to make finals this year. Like you said, you gave us three. Who are the other two that come in?
Well, obviously that three was Pure Thunder, East Perth, and Swan Districts. South Fremantle will be another one. South Fremantle will be that team, and maybe Subiaco. Maybe Subiaco can get back into the five. Maybe Subiaco, yeah, it's a transitional year, but, you never write off this Subiaco side for far too long. Bo Wardman is a tremendous coach, and I reckon if they can make the five, I reckon the success is going to go down to his vision and his ability to get the best out of young players and the experience as well. He's a multi-time premiership coach. He knows his way around the club. And maybe Subiaco could throw a red herring into some of the other teams. We haven't seen them in finals for a couple of years now, which is very, very bizarre given how Subiaco have dominated the competition in the last decade before 2022. So it is going to be interesting to see how Subiaco go in this new chapter, new era of the club. But I reckon their young players will give a good account of themselves, and they'll make the five along with South Fremantle, Peel Thunder, East Perth, and Swan Districts.
Alrighty, I'll have a crack at this. And, since my bold call, so I'll have Swan Districts, I'll have Peel Thunder, I'll have Claremont, and then I think I like your call on South Fremantle. Make it four. It's now the question is East Perth, East Fremantle, which of those two gets in? I'll give the Royals the last spot of the five in here. Not in that particular order. No, don't take it as that particular order. So Swan Districts, East Perth, South Fremantle, Claremont, and Peel Thunder will be my five guessing for this particular season. And who for you, Paul, makes the grand final?
It'll be a Swan Districts South Fremantle Grand Final. First time, I believe, since 1980, 1981, that those two teams have made the grand final. So we get a big house at Optus Stadium to witness the Swans and the Doggies battle it out.
That'll be a fun one. So I'm gonna have some fun. I'll have half yours. Swan Districts. I'm gonna go Claremont as the other team in the grand final. Be an interesting little rematch that I know of. Rick Gauchi sent me his favorite game of all time. Favorite game of all time was a Swan Districts win over Claremont in a grand final. So we'll
Oh,
see if we can get
that's the
another
best grand final.
rematch of that one. I know one of my Claremont friends who I know is very much it's probably one of his worst days, but we'll have some fun. So Swan District's Claremont grand final for me. So and then for you, sir, who is your premier?
I tell you what, a rematch from 2010 wouldn't be too bad, and that to me is one of the greatest, in fact, the greatest grand final of all time in my time watching footy. And premiers, it'll be the Swans. It'll be the Swans in 2025. I know they've lost some players. So they're always going to be up against it if you lose plenty of key players in an off season. But Swans will rise from that, and they'll win their first flag in 15 years.
Well, I'll tell you this, our old buddy Rick is just probably going to be grinning with joy when he listens to this because I'm going to have some fun too. Let's see the Black Ducks win another grand final. How fantastic would it be, not only for our beloved podcast former podcast member, but just Swan District's fans because you know that they turn out big time in the black and white. So this has been fantastic. I absolutely love talking waffle footy, but you know what? We've got round one of the women's coming up here in less than 2 weeks. Would you mind? Can we tip the women's first round for this year before we head into
Let's
a
go for it.
lovely time that is waffle footy season?
Let's go for it.
Alrighty. Let's jump to it. Round one, Friday, March 28th. Cannot wait. Sullivan Logistics Stadium sees East Perth take on Swan Districts. A cracking one here. Who do you like in this one, Paul?
Well, a little bit of history on this game. The first time that the new lights are going to be turned on at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. So a little bit of a historic moment for the iconic venue. A new lights being put up to have more night football there. And I reckon this one's going to be real interesting. East Perth, how will they improve in 2025? They've got a couple of wins on the board, but they had their first ever win against Peel Thunder and Mandurah last year. And they added one more in 2024. So I reckon this one will be very interesting. But for me, the Swans are going to get the job done, maybe by about a couple of goals. And the reason for me is the depth in their backline. They have a very strong backline in 2025. That back six is going to really hold the key in holding opposition forwards to low scores. So the Swans backline is going to make the difference for me, and I reckon they'll get it done under the leadable lights.
Yeah, if they can put up the offensive numbers that they did last year, if they can just tighten up defensively, they're gonna get a few more wins this season. I am with you on this one. Swan Districts, East Perth, growing, but Swan's just the littlest, too much talent on that one. We jump to it Saturday, March 29th. We see the debut as the Peel Thunder are hosted by Perth at Lane Group Stadium. Cannot wait for it. First ever game for the D's. Can they pull off the win in their first ever game, Paul?
First game, and you face the toughest travel in the WAFL competition all the way to Mandurah. No, ain't no better way than have a baptism of fire, so to speak. But call me bonkers, Perth win.
I was going to have some fun and say that if Peel's form from last year rears its head in this one, Perth get their first ever win. I cannot wait for that one. That one's going to be a fun one. Then we get the Fremantle Derby at Fremantle Community Bank Oval as Souths take on East Fremantle. A fascinating one here. The Bulldogs were kind of a little bit of East Fremantle's kryptonite a little bit last year. They had a little bit of struggles with South Fremantle. Again, South Fremantle having to replace some of the AFLW draftees along with East Fremantle. Be a fun one. Frio Derby, who do you like?
Yeah, round one, we got the People's Derby. How fitting. It's always a very appetizing fixture, this one, the People's Derby in both the women's and the men's competition. East Fremantle are really going to miss Zippy Fish. They're going to miss Zippy Fish. And I reckon if they can't find anyone to provide the drive in that East Fremantle engine room, I reckon South will get on top of them. So I'm going to say South Fremantle.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's going to take a little bit for them to kind of find that replacement for Zippy because she was such the talisman in that midfield. So I am with you. Unfortunately, we will tip the doggies and that one. And the last game of the round, Claremont will be the one team taking a seat in round one. Very interesting that the stalwart of the Waffle W is the team that takes a seat in round one, as we see West Perth face Subiaco at Joondalup Stadium. I know it's your beloved Falcons, head versus heart. Can they knock off the Lions, or are the Lions just too good this year?
I find this one very interesting because last couple of times Subiaco have been sort of the bogey team for West Perth. If you remember, West Perth were held to virtually nothing in the last preliminary round against Subiaco, where their forward line really ran roughshod over West Perth's back line, and they held West Perth practically scoreless in that game, which served as a bit of a wake-up call before the finals. But I reckon West Perth are going to stumble over that hurdle. It's another night game. And West
Mhm.
13 night games have been a little bit suspect, but I reckon they'll get over that hurdle as well. Under lights at Joondalup Arena, 6:30 on Saturday night, Perth time. So I reckon West Perth for me, but only just. It's going to be a great game to conclude the opening round.
Yeah, a cracking game with you on this one. Think the Falcons, but I think the Lions stay in this one and definitely push the Falcons till late in the fourth quarter. That's going to be a fun one. So, a fantastic first round of footy again. The men's will be a few weeks later. As I said, we've previewed it. We will discuss that when we meet again and again. Paul, as per usual, always fantastic to sit down and talk WAFL footy. I know you have your own podcast that's getting ready to get started, so I will let you have your time here to let everybody know when when your podcast hits back up and when we should be keeping an eye on it for it to drop.
Thanks, Rick. Around the Waffle, yes, it's back for 2025. It's on streamer.com.au in 2025. It's going to be great to be housed at a new home in 2025, but also it's going to be on your respected podcast providers as well. So anywhere you go, anytime, any place, anywhere, you can watch and listen around the Waffle. Episode's going to drop Mondays at about 6:30. So, got a bit of a prime time recap of the round and also a preview of around Thursdays at around about 8:30 on streamer.com.au and your podcast provider. I'm going to be joined by Ethan Roth, who did some Colts commentary on Streamer last year. He's going to be back in there again, and he's going to be back in the co-host chair along with various guest co-hosts throughout the season. So we're very excited for Around the Waffle to come to streamer.com.au, and it all starts on the 31st of March with a season preview. Can't wait.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's one of my favorite podcasts each week to listen to. Your breakdown of the games and your previews for the games that coming up weekend, one of my favorites. Around the Waffle, definitely worth a listen. We will definitely give it its due here. So, Paul, that is it. That is all that I have to discuss on this particular episode. Again, cannot wait for the waffle season to come. I know we're 2 weeks as we record. We're a little about 2 weeks away from it. So there's a little bit of a wait, but I cannot wait. It's so excited to see WAFL and WAFLW footy back on screens to be able to watch.
Absolutely. Can't wait for the season. It's been great fun. And to our fans out there, keep on listening. It's going to be a great season, and there's plenty of action coming up. We're only just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait. So that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. If you like what you're listening to, please like and subscribe and keep track. More state league coverage. Again, the Sandful show has already come out. You'll have this, the VFL still to come, and then more as usual, more AFL. And then we'll be doing once a month reviews of how the play is going in each of the states. So that's going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. We'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.